Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Blueprint podcast, powered by Lapolis Electric, and I'm your host, Steven Marcelino, Vice President of Sales with Lapolis Electric, and I'm here today with Austin, the insurance guy Glazer. Austin, thank you for coming on and being a guest with us today. Austin has a decade worth of experience in the insurance industry, and he has built a loyal customer base and a strong brand that has made him a dominant agent in the business today. Austin, again, thank you for coming on and being a part of this podcast today.
Thanks for having me. How's your day going?
My day's going well so far. I'm happy I was able to eat a little bit of Chipotle before.
What'd you have for lunch? You had some Chipotle? How did it go?
I did. It went very well. If I did not eat, I'd probably be laid out across the floor right now.
All right, well, I'm thankful that you ate then.
Last night. I'm thankful as well. I appreciate you looking out for my health. So, Austin, listen, I know, you and I have, we're in completely different industries, but we have a lot of, similar ideologies, it seems, when it comes to like business, sales, customer service, and areas of that nature. So I want to start this off by asking you, what attracted you to get into sales?
Well, that's a great question. And I think when it comes to sales, first, I just want to say thanks for not asking me the same tired old questions that I've been asked 100 different times on podcasts.
You're welcome. When
you come on a podcast, I think it's important that you get to highlight different sides of you. And the sales side of me is what I think is one of my favorite characteristics and one of my favorite attributes. And to answer your question, what sort of attracted me to sales? I don't know, right? I think that growing up, I'd play sports. I was never good at them. I was always like really, really bad at them, always the last pick. And I used to think to myself, what's my talent in this life, right? And one day I just went downstairs and I was talking to my uncle and I said, what do you think I should major in college? And he said to me, marketing. I go, why? He goes, you're not really good at much else. He goes, I think you'd be great at sales though. And then I started, learning more about sales and understanding that I can talk. I mean, there's a quote. It's like Charles Manson kills people, Michael Jordan plays basketball, and the reality is I talk, and I'm really good at it.
Gift of gab.
And I've got the gift of gab. My grandfather was the king of all of that, and I always say he was a master bullshitter. I think I'm a pretty damn good bullshitter too. So
you have an MBA, master in bullshit.
Absolutely, and not only an MBA, I've got the doctorate.
That's it.
So that's, I say, what attracted me to sales, just the ability to this is me. Like, I'm not really selling ever. Like, this is me. It's who I am. Just love to talk.
And that's what it comes down to. Aside from being, a professional in the product you're selling, because of course, everybody thinks about sales guys and, men and women, and they think like, oh, all they can do is talk all day. But, if you sit down and really have a technical conversation about whatever product or service it may be that you're selling, I'm selling, or any, high producing rep is selling, they could sit there and go toe to toe with the best of them about, the technicalities of their product. And that's the most interesting thing to me about salespeople. We could sit there and talk, but when it's time to get technical, we can get technical too.
Well, what I think is a cool concept is I think that I'm really into sales. So first, I'm sure you know this. I'm an owner of a company, right? So yes. Being that I'm the owner, I've really mastered the sales process. And when I hire people, it's sort of, thinking about certain things that are tied to sales, right? And I think that there are different types of producers, right? There's a need for everybody too. Like, one, I'd say the most important lesson that you're going to have, and these are all just random things that are coming to my mind, is I talk about being a chameleon often and being able to sell to someone who makes $1 a year and someone who can make $10 million a year. And it's important to be able to blend in with both and close them either way. Another really cool concept that I've been working on recently, and it's similar to what you and I, that you just brought up, which comes to really just your knowledge, is the logical close. Right? It's when you're explaining things to them and you are helping them understand your product, and the way you are doing it, you are almost giving them no choice but to say yes to you by the time that conversation ends, because you've gotten enough yeses out of them psychologically where the deal is logical and it makes sense and they're going to want to move forward. So I think knowledge is power.
It definitely is, and that's a great topic as well. And me too. As we're talking, things are just coming to my mind. The psychology behind sales is very. It's
my favorite thing in the entire world.
I think that more than anything, psychology is an extremely important part of sales to be aware of.
100%.
Because people are constantly, whether they're aware of it or not, they're judging you. They're sitting there wondering, like, all right, is this the person or the company that I want to buy from? Are they going to take care of me?
Got a great story.
And all the different underlying factors aside from being on time, answering the phone when people call, and these different things, the human mind is sometimes subconsciously making decisions for people that they're not even aware of.
Right. You might be eliminated, but I also think that it's so important that while I think that someone more green in the business is going to be really, listen, just so you know, I'm really into psychology when it comes to sales. Like, it is my middle name. One thing I will tell you is that, over time I've learned that it's really important that when you're in sales, you got to be the alpha in every conversation, right? When I get on the phone with a prospective client, I am the alpha. It's my conversation. You're lucky to be having it with me. And that sounds crazy, but that's the way that I bill myself. Whenever I finish a quote for someone, first off, a couple things. I've been talking about this more and more on podcasts, and this is what I want to be known for. I love sales, okay? But I think that it's all about how you sell. I'm not the best closer in the world, but my process is what makes me really good, right? So first off, processes are the most important thing you're going to have. If you call me for an insurance quote today, good chance I don't answer the phone when you call me. And when I'm going to send you a text, even is I'm going to say, hey, I am not free right now, but I'm free tomorrow at X or Y. First off, always deliver a 24-hour turnaround before I get on the phone with someone, unless you're an existing client and you need quotes from me, okay? By doing that, I'm demonstrating that I'm busy so that when we talk, you understand that you're on my time and we're sort of going to go through that scenario together. When I get quotes, a lot of people are like, can you send them over to me before our conversation? And I'm like, no. The way that I do quotes is that once I finish them, when we jump on that call, I'm going to go through my pillars of protection with you. It's funny because we have this conversation right now and I have clients all the time that were prospective clients that maybe don't agree with my process. And you might not like this, but the reality is I actually eliminate them as potential clients. This morning, for example, I had a client that was referred to me via Instagram. It took him 3 weeks to get me the information. At that point, if anything comes of this, awesome. If not, oh well. But, I turned the quotes around really quickly and I sent him a text and I said, hey man, or an email. And I said, hey, I'm ready to chat. I'm free tomorrow at X or Y. The prospective client said to me that, he doesn't know when he's going to be free again. Can I just send him the quotes? I said, unfortunately, man, this is our process. I stay true to my process. And I believe that I've built a business large enough where at the end of the day, this is how we do things with our clients. And we trust that this process is correct. The client says, well, this is only a quote. What's the big deal? And I said, I'm not a Geico. I'm not a State Farm. I've worked really hard to build my business like this. And if you don't see that, maybe we're not a good fit. And that was that. And the reality is, Stephen, is that sales psychology though, right? Because this client realizes that, hey, maybe I'm leaving something on the table. Maybe there is something different about working with a private insurance brokerage versus one of those larger independent insurance companies. And maybe he doesn't. And maybe I'm the idiot. But the reality is that's the beauty of sales. You get to choose who you sell to.
Yep.
And you get to make them believe what you want them to believe.
Yeah, and a lot of the time too, aside from, kind of eliminating prospective clients, something I like to do, is when I'm approaching a new business opportunity, and I instill this into the reps that I work with under me, into their minds and their way of thinking as well, is get to know as quick as possible. If somebody's not going to buy from you and they're just stringing you along, asking for this quote, that quote,
sure,
do the scope of work this way, can you guys do infrared testing opposed to de-energized maintenance, whatever the process is.
Right, you're sort of getting to what they really want at the end of the day versus what, they're asking.
Exactly. But you need to figure out, at some point and qualify, like, hey, listen.
Yeah, qualification's important.
Qualification is extremely important. You need to qualify the opportunity and say, respectfully too, at the end of the day, we're obviously speaking to people, from a respectful standpoint, is listen, I've noticed you've been, reaching out for, a multitude of ways to put the scope of work together, to put the price together. It's been almost a month that we've been spending administrative time on doing this in a million different ways for you. If you're not going to buy, just please let me know. And it may be best that, you seek a new contractor to do this work with that better suits your needs.
I think when it comes to things like that, right, Stephen, I think that there are people out there, though, who will think you're crazy.
Yep.
Right? And what I have learned to do, and it's a really big challenge for me, like telling that to that guy today, that's hard. That's hard to just leave money on the table. Like, I could have been an order taker and gotten that deal done. The reality was I was saving him over $1,000 a year. But if you're going to buy from me like that, what are you going to be like as a client?
Yeah.
And people are going to think I'm crazy. I should have just gotten that deal done. But that's okay. At the end of the day, this is what I do for a living, and I have to love what I do. Selling insurance isn't a fun job. But the processes that I've put in place make it cool, right? Because I've changed the game with the way that people buy insurance. And that was my mission all along. There's no other insurance agents out there that sell the way I sell. And that's because I designed it like this over the last 10 years to build it into something like this. And you know, I just to sort of like, I don't know where I was going with this, but sort of just piggyback. I mean, it's hard to sometimes say no and fire a potential client when you know the money's easy and it's low hanging fruit.
No, it is. And a lot of the time, you know, I'll never flat out tell somebody no.
I will.
But I will lead them to the path so they make
Right,
the
that maybe we're not a good
decision.
fit and they say it to you.
They say it to me, and then we can kind of digest that together and say, all right, why is that? You know, and start unpacking these, I guess, decisions that they're making, and then they turn around and they realize, like you said, you know, with the whole time aspect of things, if somebody calls you now, you're going to say, well, I can't speak with you until tomorrow or the following day.
Right, you're almost eliminating them because I think that in the past, like there are
Correct.
companies like Geico and State Farm, they're like, we'll get you a quote right now. And I'm like, that's okay, I'm not that guy.
You're not set
Not
up
that
for
guy,
that.
pal. You know
That's
what I mean?
it. And when you do that, though, it makes people think, like you said, wow, this guy must have something
Different.
that he is so confident in his decision that they're solid in their way of doing business. And that goes far beyond the sales process, that they believe in their product and their team so much that they know, listen, maybe this isn't a good fit for either of us. And, you know, I'll explore new clients, you explore new
That's hard,
opportunities.
though. It's very
And
hard.
it's not easy at all.
No, it's been one of the more challenging things, but I also think that, right, like, you know, as a business owner, one of the number one things I have to make sure that I'm doing is working on the business instead of in the business 24/7.
Correct.
And if that means that I've got a lead coming in that could potentially make me $100, but I have to work on my business, which could make me infinite amounts of dollars, I am not afraid to turn down business. I think at this point, Stephen, I've built up my name enough in this industry that I have a plethora of leads coming in a week, and I'm super thankful for that. But I've worked my ass off to do it. And what that means is it gives me the right, after all these years, to say no to certain deals.
Yep.
And that's sort of the position we're in now.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Thanks.
it's great. And listen, it is a different industry. Like I said, you know, I'm in risk mitigation and engineered services. You know, a division of my company in the electrical construction business, and you're in the insurance side. You know, so for me, sometimes I have to kind of weigh the scales because if I turn a deal away, I could be potentially leaving somebody exposed to a hazard.
Sure.
So
By the way,
you know,
same.
Actually, yeah, it's true. You're
Yeah.
in insurance, so we're both in our own respect. You know, leaving people exposed if we don't, you know, give them the knowledge and the experience that we can provide. Mm-hmm. You know, which is a very interesting way to look at it. So let me ask you something on this topic. Actually, you know, it's pretty relatable. How important is response time to you when you're dealing with a client?
You know, I've built my entire business on response time. I'm always on my phone. I think my screen time is like 13 hours a week between the two phones, which is crazy. But the reality is, that's why I'm so damn good at what I do.
Yep.
You know, I beat my competition every single time because I'm always answering my phone. You name it, I'm answering my phone. However, I will tell you, there are boundaries that need to be established with clients when you onboard them. I'm very good at that. I also will tell you that on the weekends, my phone goes in a drawer. When I first got in this business, and for the first 5 or 6 years, I was so attached to this business 24/7, and it probably shortened my lifespan. But I've gained it all back in the last 2 or 3 when I realized that it's not all about business and it's not for damn sure all about money. At the end of the day, my response time is important, but I'm not like you are lucky. You will always get a response from 9 to 5, 100%. More often than not, you'll get a response after hours too. On the weekend, you probably won't get a response. And that's okay. I mean, you know, I have, you know, people that think I'm crazy. As a business owner, I still have 2 phones. I have 2 phones because I just don't, on the weekends, I don't want to answer them. But that's okay, right? I mean,
Yeah.
And I think I've created the situation where I have an entire staff that can handle that stuff that I can't. It's just, listen, I think it's all about creating boundaries, but when you are working and you are there, I think response time is everything.
Yeah, no, it's true. And for me too, like on our end, you know, we deal with a lot of emergency service situations that could happen. You know, it's tale of two cities. I mean, in that regard, yes, we're both handling safety concern. You know, but for us, you know, response time is everything. And you know, we're not the only electrical contractor in New York State, the tri-state area. So if they're not
Sure.
getting those immediate response times from myself or my team in the event of emergency or a high priority service call, you know, sometimes we don't have the option to put our phone away. So that's a little bit of the difference for us, you know, and that's what kind of separates us, like you said too, from our competition. you know, my phone's sitting next to my hip right now, you know, as we're doing this podcast, and
Same.
and yours is under your ass, you know. So it just goes to show that, you know, at any point in time, if I get an emergency service call or if something happens, I'm there for my client, you know, and my team members think I'm nuts. Like, I respond to emails at 11 o'clock at night.
That I'll do too.
You know, if exactly, you know, and a lot of our team members do it, you know. And listen, if a client on a high priority project sends an email, because our clients are extremely busy as well, and they might not think of something between those normal working hours, and they say, hey, listen, can you guys please help us with this situation? I'm responding to them because I want them to know at the drop of a dime, you know, I'm there for them, and Lapolis Electric is there for them. And that's a peace of mind that can't be taught in a classroom.
Yeah, I'd say so.
You know. So let me ask you one other thing kind of tied to the whole response time. What does the word relationships mean to you in business and in sales?
Well, that's how I built my entire business. Right, I built
Unpack that a little. Tell us.
Sure. So, I mean, I think that, well, why wouldn't you go with a Geico or a Travelers or a State Farm Direct? Because you don't have an insurance guy that you know and trust, right? You know, I insure Fran. He called me on a Friday, and I broke my cardinal rule. He called me on a Friday at like 6 o'clock, and he's like, hey, you know, I'm getting a car. Can you help me? You know that one time the conversation of how much didn't come up? It was just more, can you get this done for me? Right? And that's what I've built over the years. When I first got in this business, you know, there are plenty of insurance brokers out there, and I want you to understand that there are plenty of insurance brokers that are out there that will pay for leads. They'll pay referral partners for leads. When I got in the business, my mentor said to me, if you do that, you will be out of the game in X amount of years because your competition will essentially offer more money than you're offering right now, and then they leave you. The thing is, the way I've built my business, Stephen, is completely based on relationships. Everything. I consider people friends, okay? Everybody, honestly. And I work really hard. I mean, one of my rules is never to talk business. I hate talking about my business, right? And that's not a psychological thing. That's like, I just don't like talking about business. I love talking about what's up with people. Do you have a family? Do you have kids? Do you like to golf? I want to get to know you.
Yep.
And whether I sell insurance or not, it's just, that's who I am. And that's, I think, I was meant for sales. Like, I'm naturally just talking about things at all times. Look at someone like Tony, okay? Tony Peck. Tony's entire relationship is built Tony's entire, let me start over because that was probably going to be a clip for him. Tony Peck's entire business has been built on relationships. Everybody he meets, he flaunts them around, he introduces them to people, and that's how he makes them powerful. He connects them with other businesses, other like-minded people. That's why his slogan is basically, I got a guy for that, because he does. And to him, everything is based on relationships. Nobody pays him money to like be his friend, you know, and I certainly don't pay Tony money to have access to his network. Right. But what he's built his entire businesses on is that relationship game. If you sit down with him, sure, a lot of that time he'd be paying for, you know, people are paying him for marketing stuff. But when I sit down with him, it's more just sit down and shoot the shit and be like, what's up, man? How are you?
Yep.
Because to me, that's what's most important, because I'm not in this business for the short term. I'm here till the end of the day.
Yep.
End of days. You know what I mean? As long as I can be here. And I'm going to build as many relationships along the way. And you know how I know that I'm doing it right? I think about it like this, right? You said you're getting married soon?
Yes.
How many people that you're in business with do you think about having at your wedding?
A handful.
Okay, so I think about a lot. And it's really frustrating because I've the conversation internally in my head, and I'm like, if I got married, I have so many people in business that I have to invite that I might just have to elope somewhere else.
That was my struggle too. Like, when we were putting the invitation list together, I had a huge list of clients and associates that I would have liked to invite, all of them. But at the same time, you know, big Italian family, I would have had 2,000 people at my wedding,
that's what
which
I'm
is
saying.
unrealistic.
Right. But to me, that's the craziest thing. That's how I know that, like, that's why work doesn't feel like work to me.
Yep.
You know, I'll pick up, I'll talk to somebody that I do business with. I'm like, what's up, man? How are you?
That's it.
And that's it. And guess what? And just a psychology thing to tie that all together, when you build these types of relationships, they're not going to shop you on price. They're not going to leave you for price. They're going to be with you because they want to be with you. They trust you. 100%. And it ties back to everything we were talking about earlier, which was response time.
Yeah. And the big thing too, like, for me, I'm really happy you said that, because like my cardinal rule, especially when I train new reps, if you're cold calling somebody, do not call them like you're a telemarketer. Hey, this
There's
is
a great book on that. Have you read Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort?
I have not.
That's a great book. He talks about how to do like that entire. He teaches how to cold call. It's called straight line selling.
Yeah.
I've mastered it. It is brilliant. And no, you can't. So tell me, what's the opening line?
No, so listen, if you're cold calling somebody, you can't just get on the phone and say, "Hi, this is
What do they say?
So and so at Lapolis Electric. We provide electrical preventative maintenance services. This all right? Click. I got to provide.
What do you say?
Bye. You got to call them. Hi, how's it going? This is Steven Marcelino. I'd like to set up a time where we can maybe get a cup of coffee or grab some lunch, and I could get to know you.
Great book to read is Way of the Wolf, straight line selling. I mean, one of the things he talks about is opening line. John, this is Austin. What's going on, man? How are you? Good, man. How are you? I'm doing great. How's your electric? Just say the most ridiculous shit because it catches their attention,
That's
right?
it.
He doesn't say hello. He doesn't say goodbye. He says, John, this is Austin. How's your electric? It just...
And it catches their attention.
Because it's like, what is this? This is ridiculous. You know. And that, by the way, when I cold call, when I teach people to cold call, I have them say the most ridiculous shit you can imagine.
Yeah.
The most ridiculous shit. Like, they'll say something like they have car insurance, right? And I'd be like, all right, like, what's their mascot? Just keep them on the phone.
Just keep them engaged.
Right. There's a saying that time kills deals, but when it comes to cold calling, I'd say time helps deals. The longer you have someone on the phone, the higher your likelihood of quoting them. But if you're still cold calling, you're really like, I think that there's a degree of cold calling versus like what we were talking about earlier, which is where you can eliminate customers and say you don't want to work with them. It's totally two different variables. So for anyone listening, if anyone at home is listening, two different variables there.
Yeah, 100%. And I would say, for us, we're primarily cold calling. Like the newer reps will cold call a prospect for new business. Because we have a massive book of evergreen business that's just residual. And that's where the relationship comes in, where, on a Friday night, I might have a client text me, nothing to do with business. Hey, Steven, where should I get dinner tonight in the city?
That's
I
good.
know you love food. And we have relationships with these people. I know that so-and-so likes to go to a Yankees game. Bring them to a baseball game.
Absolutely. I say that stuff all the time.
Their kid's a diehard Rangers fan. I don't need to be there. Get the Ranger tickets. Let them go have fun with their kid.
100%.
And it's about asking these questions, remembering anniversaries, remembering milestones. There's nothing more valuable.
But that's why social media is great, though, too.
It is.
Social media gives you that tool to basically...
You get the reminder.
You also have access to everything in their life.
Everything. So much information.
Like, when I first got in the business, I would write down everything a client told me. My brother taught me that little trick. But now it's like I have social media at my fingertips. Every client, I make sure they follow me.
And another
By the way, those gestures go way further than giving them money for a referral.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're touching them on a personal level.
Absolutely.
And another big thing, too, is like when I have to go and visit a client's facility, whether I'm alone or with a rep, and I teach this to everybody. When you walk into their office or when you first meet them, analyze their office. Do they have memorabilia on the walls? Are they wearing a pin on their shirt? So one success story I have, walked into a building, chief engineer did not want to talk to me. He had an electrician. I was there to simply give him a quote. But when I walked in, I said, how's it going? Steven Marcelino at Lapolis. It's great to meet you in person. I noticed he had an FDNY pin on his shirt. I asked him, I said, I've had family and friends that have been with the FDNY. I said, what does that pin mean to you? His brother passed away as a first responder in 9/11. So he wears that pin every single day. He talked to one of my coworkers that he has a relationship with, the reason that I was even able to get that opportunity to go there, and said, I'm not going with you guys because of this, that, or the third. I'm going with you because Steven Marcelino recognized I was wearing an FDNY pin, and he asked me genuinely, what did that pin mean to me? And, do you wear it every day? And I was able to connect with him as a human being and look past scope of work and the transaction of what we were dealing with. And I went there and just talked to him like a normal guy.
That's a win if I've ever heard of one.
And that's what it's all about at the end of the day, Any extremely successful sales representative like yourself and others that I come across and those in my company, Carmine Lapolis, my father, Rob Doria, all, Paul Lapolis, everybody in our company that is performing at a high level, this other gentleman, Ches DeGennaro, Scott Hirsch, we're all hyper-focused on relationships.
Sure.
And that's, at the crux of it, that's the most important thing because, like I said, there's a million other electrical contractors in New York State that probably do great work. I'm not going to endorse any because I only endorse Lapolis Electric, but, we're not the only game in town. But I can stand behind the fact that in the construction business, our customer service, our relationships, our quality of work, our attention to detail, and our safety sets us apart from 90% of the contractors out there.
Well, guess what? Confidence leads to conversion. So
That's it.
yeah,
You know, and confidence is, you touched on it a little bit before. Confidence is extremely important when you're a salesperson.
sure.
If you pick up the phone and you're hesitating and, and they ask you a question and they hear it in your voice that it's like a curveball, next,
Eliminated.
eliminated. And salespeople, everybody knocks salespeople, but we're the first line of any company.
By the way, your salespeople are the heart and soul of every single business in the
Every
world.
business.
In the world. How do you think businesses make money? Salespeople.
That's it.
That's the only thing that drives revenue.
The only thing.
Right.
So we got a few minutes left, and I want to ask you a kind of interesting
Sure.
question because I know it's a big topic across all industries. What do you feel the future of sales is with the development of artificial intelligence?
Untapped.
In what way?
I love it. I use it every day.
You use ChatGPT?
I use ChatGPT. I'm actually hiring a service right now. I'm bringing a service into my agency that there'll be a literal person on the other end of the line that I guess an AI person that answers calls, can answer questions, can search our database for stuff. Pretty crazy shit. I'm super excited for what the future of AI will bring.
Yeah. We my division at Lapolis is a part of a pretty big franchise, and we just had a massive conference in Atlanta. And a gentleman named Sam Richter was our keynote speaker, and he talked all about generative AI and how it's going to shape the future, and a lot of it, it seems, AI is going to learn behaviors. They're going to be able to, more or less do every function of every job in the near future. So,
It's like one of those situations, either use it or you're going to lose your job.
Exactly. You're either going to use it or lose it. And the way you teach, these softwares and tools to respond, to write scripts, to, ultimately kind of pave the way of those first couple steps of the sales process, is what makes this artificial intelligence. You could literally train it to basically be a rep that's behind a computer.
I know.
And it's extremely interesting, and I'm very excited to see where AI goes in the next few years.
I'm totally going to be using it. I'm ready now. Whatever makes my job easier.
I know. It's already hard enough as it is, right?
Trust me, I know. I hear you.
Now, listen, Austin, I really appreciate you coming out here today.
Absolutely.
That was
Pleasure.
A great
Thanks for having me on.
Great conversation, a lot of great energy. I really enjoyed this episode. And, for those listening, I hope you were able to learn something. And if you have any questions for myself or Austin on sales process, cold calling, lead generation, psychology, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be more than happy. I'm sure Austin would be more than happy to give you some tips and tricks. And again, thank you for watching another episode of the Beyond the Blueprint podcast, powered by Lapolis Electric. I'm your host, Steven Marcelino. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.